Welcome to this flight of the Retail Pilot. I'm Ken Pilot, former CEO and current brand advisor, investor, and board member. I'm thrilled to share with you some of the insights from retail's leaders and legends, as well as my perspective on retail today. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Want to drive more traffic and conversions on your e-commerce site? Brands that use video see 41% more traffic from search engines, and that's just the start. Meet Firework, the leader in AI-powered video commerce. Trusted by brands like L'Oreal and Unilever, Firework turns any page into an immersive, shoppable experience. From pre-recorded long-form content to short-form and everything in between. With Firework, you can easily integrate social media videos into your product pages and run pre-recorded digital showrooms with shoppable content. Plus, Firework offers AI-powered virtual assistants to personalize shopper experience and drive higher conversion. That's why I'm an investor and advisor. Learn more at firework.com. Welcome back to the Retail Pilot. On today's flight of the Retail Pilot, I'm joined by Sarah Davis and Ben Hemminger, co-founders of Fashionphile, the largest online platform for buying and selling ultra-luxury handbags and accessories in the U.S. Sarah founded the company in 1999 as an eBay store, recognizing the unique value retention of designer pieces in the secondary market. Ben joined shortly after, bringing business acumen that helped scale the company from Sarah's home into a 30,000 square foot headquarters in Carlsbad, California, with flagship locations in New York and San Diego and showrooms across the country. Under Sarah's visionary leadership and Ben's strategic oversight as CEO, Fashionphile has grown into a trailblazer in re-commerce, earning a minority investment from Neiman Marcus Group in 2019. With a focus on authenticity, innovation, and sustainability, their mission continues to reshape the future of luxury retail. Ben, Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, Sarah, before you and I met, Ben had a chance to connect. You and I met live. Ben and I did it over a Zoom call. So I got a little bit of background on the company and just so excited to hear about the model. But before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit more about your journey, because Ben shared with me a pretty interesting story about how the business began to shape up. And I'll nudge you, Ben, if you forget it, but it has to do with the zip code, which I think that's so many. But really, I guess what inspired you, Sarah, to start Fashionphile, and how did you identify the opportunity in the luxury resale space?
Yeah, I think I always liked nice things, and I grew up not being able to afford them. And the way you can afford them, if you can't afford them, is you buy them used if you want authentic. So I was shopping resale from a young age, not because I was looking for unique items or whatever, but because literally that's what I could afford, and I could dress a lot better if I did that. So I was always in thrift stores, consignment stores, and I actually still love that way of life. It's like a treasure hunt that I still really enjoy. And so when the internet started coming together, honestly, it was kind of obvious, meaning it was so exciting. As someone who loves resale, if you live in small town, Midwest or the South or whatever, the resale back in the, 80s before the internet was just whatever your neighbors were donating, not that fun unless you live in New York City or LA or whatever. And it was so cool to be able to see that everybody's stuff was now in this platform on eBay. In those early days, it wasn't easy to pop up a website. In fact, most department stores didn't have normal e-commerce. And there was a lot of you probably know from your experience, there's a lot of question about, is e-commerce even going to be a thing? Because it wasn't easy to process a credit card online, or things like that were very challenging. But I could see just eBay was really revolutionary to be able to see all of this stuff in one place that was at one time all over the country or in the world. And now you could shop, and it was very exciting as a shopper. And then immediately I was like, what can I sell? And then that whole idea of selling to buy, taking that money and investing it. But it was people now are it was kind of obvious at the time that somebody should be doing this, because eBay in those early years was, if you have ever shopped or sold on Facebook Marketplace, I don't know if you've ever risked that. I bought a desk during COVID for my kids that were studying, with COVID's homeschool. And I sold it on Facebook Marketplace just to get it out of my house so I didn't have to and my husband was like, we're going to die. Some stranger is going to come to our house for $25 and this does. I'm just trying to get rid of it because I don't want to deal with it. I want it out of the house. But eBay was kind of like that in the early days, meaning it was 95% counterfeit or stolen, or there was no oversight. eBay has really cleaned up their act and it's actually a trustworthy, fun place to shop now. But in those early days, it was like that. And so we were just kind of in our own little corner creating a safe haven. And when it was difficult to pop up a website, it wasn't difficult to pop up a little eBay shop. And so that's what we did. Fashionphile was our user ID.
Ben, what were some obstacles that you faced in addition to the ones that Sarah just called out, getting this business up and going and actually beginning to get into this circular luxury space?
At the very beginning, taking it from what was, a fairly scrappy kind of eBay business and trying to say, how do we get this to become a luxury, acceptable by luxury shoppers and accepted in the luxury space? And early on in those very early days, probably not too honest that we were thinking, we're going to be the next luxury brand. I think when we started selling, well, hey, this is working. Let's organize it. Let's systemize it. Let's get off of eBay onto our own site. The first mission when we partnered up in 2006 was, let's take this from eBay and let's put Fashionphile instead of just as an eBay handle, put it on a website. Let's get a brand around it. Let's put nice, packaging together. And I think just soon after that, we kind of realized, wait a minute, this actually could be a brand, and got pretty confident relative to where we were at the time that we could actually stand alongside some of these luxury houses and be legitimate. And that was, I think, the boldest, thoughts that we had way back then when we were in the basement of a house, to think this could actually be, considered a worldwide brand. And it's taken us, 20 years to get from there to here. But we really just saw and so what was the challenge? Overcoming the perception that if you buy it online, it's pre-owned, that it might be fake. So authenticity was a huge one. How do we ensure people associate Fashionphile with, they know what they're talking about in terms of authenticity? And also getting rid of a little bit of the ick factor that was associated with, it's a bias against pre-owned, and I think that was very heavy back then. And now it's a totally different world and become much more acceptable and even chic for some product types having bought them from pre-owned. And so those are the challenges, is getting it acceptable, getting it to not be considered as gross or something like that. And it truly isn't. When you look at our product, it's not, but the perception is that it's used by somebody else, must be gross. One of the biggest, most common questions I got early on was, how do you clean it all? How do you get it all clean? And I was always confused, what do you mean? We don't really clean it that much. They come to us surprisingly in very good condition. People who have $3,000 bags don't just have one bag they run into the ground and then sell it. They've got a collection, they treat them nicely, they keep it in the original box. So it's been, a great to help dispel a lot of those myths over time. And I think we've done that very well.
And one thing that you had shared to me when we spoke last, although you started the business out of the house, it wasn't just any house. It was a house with a very address.
And that does tie into that from the beginning, intentional desire to say this could be considered luxury, even though it's pre-owned and even though it was on eBay at the time. So when I was doing the UCLA business school, when Sarah and I partnered up, and so had to be in LA. And literally with one day, I just I was in the Bay Area at the time. So I went to, the area and looked at the physical newspaper of Beverly Hills, the Courier, and listings for houses, and saw one that had a 90210 zip code. We're like, that should be the location, because if we can ship our products from 90210, and just came off the tails of the 90210 show, just maybe 5 years prior, 90210 was a big deal. And the song 90210 Beverly Hills, there was a lot going on with 90210. We're what if we could ship all our products? People will associate that iconic zip code with our products. And so we really rented it was a a guest house of a legitimate mansion in Beverly Hills, but we were renting the guest house. And within the guest house, me and my wife and daughter lived in the upstairs. And then we started kind of moving it from Sarah's house to this basement. And that's where the incorporated business started in 2026. And so it was now 2-0 from the beginning. And I think that little subtle decision to do that went a long way in helping to dispel those myths we're talking about.
In the early, I don't know if Ben told you this part, but we did a survey a couple years later. And it was just like an online survey of our customers and say, hey, how did you find us? Like, what do you think? And like, who are you? And what do you like? What do you dislike? And we learned a lot of interesting things on there. And one of them was that in the day, it was very different than today. People were just sending us product. We didn't have like this web developed, quote request system that we do now with our app and our website. People would just like print off from our very janky website that like me and Ben actually coded for it's like simple, HTML, that you would download a piece of paper, print it out and ship us. And we'd get a box on the door and it's like, there's no tracking, like they don't know us. And we're like, why do you trust us? So we had all these reasons why that was like a, multiple choice. And then there was like other at the bottom and people were writing in, you're in 90210, you're in Beverly Hills. Like we didn't even think that was why people were trusting us. That people would email, they're like, whose was this?
An interesting parlay like that, bringing it to the slightly next step of the business was a physical location outside of the basement, which was another iteration of the same strategy. We had another 2-0 basement. Okay, that was great. But then when we did our first location, which was still like a second floor, it wasn't retail, but we needed a bigger place. We, rented a place that was second story on Wilshire in LA, but right off of Rodeo. And our back alley was shared with Louis Vuitton's back alley, like the store on Rodeo Drive. And so that was another confidence builder to say, we're located on, off Rodeo, next to Louis Vuitton, Chanel's down the street, Neiman's down the street. How could we be located here if we were selling fakes? If we had an open door, come look, the world can come. And I think being in that proximity, I think went a long way too. It's like, it's true. You couldn't really be selling fakes openly. And so I think it would kind of prove the concept to the whole world, even though most people are buying online. The fact that we had an open door to Rodeo meant we had to be legit.
That is smart. It's very similar to the way brands can use a collaboration.
Leveraging the
elevator, just
somebody else.
Exactly.
Beverly Hills did not, they're collaborating with us, but we were collaborating with them. Yeah.
You joined the local Chamber of Commerce, which in that case was the Beverly Hills Chamber of Commerce. And we put that on our website, which sounds so small business now, like Chamber of Commerce members. But hey, if it's Beverly Hills,
you got to do it. You got to be scrappy when you start.
Exactly.
Let's take it up a level for those who may not be as familiar with Fashionphile as they should be. Ben, maybe just high level, you can give us some stats on the company and just to set a marker of how big the company is, maybe, or a range. I know you're privately held, generally tough to get numbers from you privately held people, but in the event that you would like to share, we're all ears.
Yeah. Okay. So where we're at today is, there's over 300 employees nationwide we're anchored by 2 major flagship stores. We call them flagships where they have all the inventory. So all the inventory that we have to sell, which is maybe, 50,000 units, are divided among the, 2, almost 3. And then at the end of the summer, we're going to have another one, but I'll keep that for later. We have these 2 locations, all the inventory is there. And one's in Carlsbad, California, Southern California, and the other one's in New York City, Chelsea, right in the heart of Manhattan. So that's where all the inventory is and where all the processing goes, all the authentication happens and all that. And then in addition to that, we've got retail stores and some key shopping centers. We've got what we call salons, which is like an office, like a kind of a living environment, like a buy, sell, comfortable kind of showroom areas. And we have those throughout the country. And so our footprint is
14 locations.
Yeah, there's 14 total. And the sales breakdown is like, it's still, the majority is sold online, the vast majority. And then all these locations contribute to additional sales. Plus, instant drop off so people can come into our physical locations in all 14 and drop off a bag and that they want to sell to us. So it's one of the major value propositions, if you will, for the physical location is to meet the customers where they're at. They can drop off and they can get paid a lot quicker if they drop it off in person. So that's kind of where we're at. It's an omnichannel business, and it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars passing through every year, and the largest of its type in the country, I would say the world, if you're carving out our specific business model, which is to own the product. So that's where we're at.
Competitively, I guess when you think about it, you might think about the Real. At the higher end of the Real would be broader in its offer in terms of including much more in the way of clothing. You guys overlap with the Real, I believe, with bags, accessories,
Absolutely.
shoes, jewelry, which is very important
Yeah.
category that's doing quite well.
We're big fans of the Real, but you can buy a pair of Nike gym shorts on the Real, and you can buy Vince and, women's contemporary is, I think, 65% of what they do. And it's a consignment model. So at Fashionphile, if you want to sell your Gucci backpack, you can submit your quote online, and we're going to hopefully within 24 hours come back to you with a quote that says we'll give you $1,000 for that backpack. Or you could come into one of our locations, any of the 14 locations Ben said, and you can get paid on the spot for that item in cash. And we'll pay you the $1,000. A consignor is going to take that item and they're going to say, here's about what you think you're going to get for it. And many of them have like a 90-day or so turn. And so your item's going to sell over that period of time. If it discounts over time, it's going to discount. And then at the end of the day, you're going to get paid the 15th a month following the day that it sells, whenever that is. And you're getting a piece of whatever was left after the discount. If we tell you we're going to give you $1,000 for that item because we think it's going to sell for $1,300, and we end up selling it for $1,000 or $800 because we messed up and we misquoted it, you've already been paid. You're happy, and we find that's really disappointing. We've been profitable our whole lives together, and so we have to be really good at that because we can't miss a lot. We can't lose a lot, but we do lose. But when we lose, you're not upset by it because you've already been paid. We're not surprising you with some low, end result that you're not happy with.
I think that's a great difference to understand. Is Rebag similar in terms of its model?
Rebag is very similar to our model. I think they pretty much are the same model, just start a little
They're
later.
buying a product from the customer. It's not consignment.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very frustrating. I mean, not to diss the Real, but to watch articles of clothing go to the Real from where I live, and there are lots of articles, and you think you're going to get A, they end up getting D. Yeah, which is dinged, D for dinged, because you don't get A, you get D, and you watch it get marked down.
Yeah.
It's very different. But, for a company, one is rather inventory light and one is inventory heavy. And it's very interesting to me that your model being quote unquote inventory heavy, you guys have been profitable. I don't quite know where Real been in their profit journey, but they weren't for a very long time.
It's an interesting why. I think that I don't know exactly like how, their business works, differently than ours down to the detail, but I think the primary difference is, and again, not a knock on that. I think it's great too, but if you start off from saying what's good for the business, then you get one type of business that favors the business. Hey, it's cash light for the business. And I think from the day one, maybe it's naivete or whatever, we always say, what do the customers want? Like they're asking us to buy them out. I guess we got to buy them out. Like they're asking us to open up a physical location so they can drop it off in person. I guess we got to do that. And so from the beginning, Sarah and I were like actually doing the work for the first, like, I would say 10 years, like way too long. We were really slow on the whole, like raise money and go big. We just kind of did the work heads down for 10 years. And because of that, we heard every day, like what the customer wants, what brands they want, what condition is icky, what's acceptable. And I think in our DNA, we know that. And we knew that buyout was huge. And we, from the beginning, started doing that. And I think if you start a business from a business plan, you don't see that. You're like, oh, it's going to be good for me. So I think that's really been helpful for us, is to be so close to the customer from the beginning that we never even had a chance to develop like what's better for us. Because if we did, I don't know if we would be here today or we wouldn't be profitable. So it starts from that, I think.
The customer comes in, they bring you their Chanel bag, you pay X for it. They get that X right away. They get the cash right away. Typically, what would and I would guess that this is a supply and demand. A Chanel bag, you might be able to go a bit higher on a markup than you might today with a Gucci bag, because Gucci may not be as in demand. But that's where your secret sauce comes into play. What's the typical markup on top of the goods that you take back?
It's like 30% on average. We're aiming for
30 average. And
Yeah.
you're right that each brand and even each condition or style with it was very specific to the actual color, the condition, the exact style. And our data is super deep and over like 20 years of it. So if you bring us a crazy like yellow Chanel from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we'll probably have sold 3 or 4 of those. And we could tell you how quickly they moved and therefore how much we can predict. And if we really want the bag, this is the great part about being able to buy the inventory, is that we as a buyers, and we have a team of buyers that use tech to like support, but there's a team who operates it. They actually can say, this particular bag is super hot. I'm actually going to pay more for it because I'm confident it's going to fly. So if it's like, I don't know, I've never seen this weird print. It's like, it's unique. I'm going to bid way lower and factor in the risk that it might have to discount before it sells. And so the price that you get for this thing you bring us really depends on how quickly we think that's going to turn on the market. And if we're very confident, we'll give you more because we really want that quick turn. So actually the Chanel's, we probably lower margin than others because we really want those things. And the other stuff, I'm like, these old shoes, I don't know. We offer low because we're just not too confident. We get a bigger margin if we're lucky, but we have to factor in the risk that we might drop.
And hot off the press, Chanel just announced another price increase. They've been kind of, and so the prices on those bags are just steadily going up every year, year over year. And we're able to kind of flex with the pricing. We're able to flex with tariffs and all those types of things because our customer is the American customer. And really, as prices go up or down, our turn is in the, I think, 40 something days right now. Very quick turn. So even if we're stuck with oh my gosh, like I remember a moment where Balenciaga ran into some PR mess because there was some questionable advertising and everybody's like, oh, don't touch Balenciaga. And we have a bunch of Balenciaga, but we're able to move really quickly and then reprice and start again. And we never really get stuck with something that we can't, because we're moving so quickly. Trends aren't like that quick that we're just like overwhelmed by something that we can't get off of, because we only deal with the very, very cream of the crop. We don't have any filler brands. We're only dealing with ultra luxury, truly special brands. And those brands are, they maintain their value. And again, they don't have these sharp trend cycles that we could really get stuck holding the bag on.
So when looking at the pricing online, and I did this across a few of your items, I noticed that the pricing is relatively close to what I would pay for that item if it were new. Caveat, if I could find it.
Yes, exactly. Number one, if you could find it. Number two, it's actually super interesting because some things people are like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Everybody's, all Birkins are over retail. I'm like, we've got a bunch of Birkins for half off. They've been worn a bit. They might have a pen mark in the inside or whatever. If you want a Birkin with stickers on the hardware and it's like a minty with the box, full kit, it's going to be over retail. But you can actually get a killer deal on you can get a killer deal on a Rolex. You can buy a Rolex for less than retail from Fashionphile. It's going to have some scratches on the...
I was checking it out today. I was looking at Emile Gauss online there. I was looking at a little bit of a scratch, but you called out.
It's been driven off the lot, I mean, exactly. And so the truth is that you're right. And if it's in mint condition, because the interesting thing in our world is that Chanel, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Goyard, a lot of these brands don't sell online. Some of them at all. Others don't sell online in these hot items. And so for good parts of the US where there is not, you can't, where's the Chanel? Where do you buy Chanel in the Midwest or the South? You don't. It doesn't exist. You literally have to go to Atlanta or Houston, Texas. Yeah. So, and so you go to shop Fashionphile. So those prices are close to retail because it's almost like we're filling a need.
I think we've got a couple customers a couple of different customer types. Like some are coming for deals for sure. And there's that. Some are coming because it's the only way you can buy that product online or at all. So the online ones are these stores that don't have an online presence. Even when they do, they have their own stock fluctuations and they're like, we're out of this one for a week or sold out, it's on back order. We might have 3 of those available today. And so what's it worth to the customer? We struggle with this. Like, I don't like pricing above retail because it makes customers it gives them the wrong idea. Like, what's going on? Like, I want to just buy it Louis Vuitton. And in those cases, we would say, please, if you can get it from Louis Vuitton, I wouldn't expect to buy it here. You should buy it there. Maybe sell it to us because it's sold out. So when they get sold out, then we're the only place to go. And so we do our pricing truly based on a real-time barometer of the demand. And that's hard for customers to maybe understand. Sometimes it looks like we're gouging, but trust me, we're paying that customer. We have customers come to us, it's like, I'm not selling unless I get retail for it, meaning they want their full price from us. And then we got to make and so it's just when it's sold out, when it's not available, there becomes a secondary market. And the sneaker world knows that more than anybody, that Nike is getting the lowest price for that sneaker. And then 2 or 3 guys beyond are making as much as Nike did. And it almost seems insane for Nike to keep doing that. But that's kind of that's the way it is. And that keeps the demand up. And there's reasons for that. So kind of play a little bit in that world too.
There was a website that's still around. It's called the Purse Forum. And it's everybody's super obsessed with handbags, loves to go to the Purse Forum. And it's a very great resource, lots of good information. It's exactly Reddit for purses, all the drama of Reddit right there in the Purse Forum. And there was a thread that it's still there, hundreds of pages long. And the title was, "What is Fashionphile Smoking?" And the first post was that we had an Hermes Twilly. It's a little scarf that you put over your handles of your Birkin. It was priced over retail. And they're like, "What is Fashionphile smoking?" And then everybody's would put these items, and every one of them, there's a story of why you can't get that Twilly in that style anymore. It's discontinued, very popular. So we're paying the person who bought that Twilly, we're paying her full retail for it, and then we'll sell it for higher. But what's interesting is the traffic, even though it was kind of a dig on Fashionphile, the traffic that we got that converted from that page was always it's always a top referred of Fashionphile websites. They're like, ooh, what? Ooh, and what else do they have? People who love that kind of stuff, they know that they can come to us because we have the best curation.
When the customer brings back their bag or jewelry and they get paid out, do they get a discount on their next purchase? I mean, ideally, in one transaction, they get money for what they bring back, and I use that money to buy something else.
When you say bring back, they're selling to us.
That's my key thing, bring back.
Yeah,
They sell you their product. Exactly.
They sell it to us. We give them a price, and there's a cash price. We'll give you $2,000. If you want to exchange it in for another bag or keep it on store credit, it's 10% more. So it's $2,200 in that example towards something else. So that is, yeah. And also, I think you mentioned Neiman Marcus, but you could also come to us and get 10% not for a Neiman Marcus gift card, credit.
Yeah, we'll talk about Neiman's in a second. So what percent of the customers actually take the credit back versus the cash?
Yeah, it's single digits. And what's interesting is I don't want to
10% is too little.
No, I know. Trust me. Trust me. We're looking more into that. But what's interesting is we get a lot more. We call it circularity. When you do the full circuit, we get a lot more circularity in our flagships, where when you bring the item in, and then we're gonna pay right then it's just ooh, this is free money. I got literally a coupon right here, and look at what I have. Like Ben said, there's 20,000 items to shop for. You want a Rolex? We have 150. Which one do you want? And so it makes it very easy. So we find that in our physical locations and our stores and our salons and flagships, we have a lot more of that behavior.
It's something people need to do a lot more of. I mean, we want to go out there. That's a challenge for us, I think, to educate the customer to say, your closet is just sitting there as almost 50% off of any bag you want. because you bring it in, you maybe get half of the value you bought it for in exchange for something else plus 10%. So the more people start doing that, the more they shop. And with that in mind, like, well, I'm going to buy this Chanel and it's like $7,000. But then you immediately know, just like a textbook at school or a used car, you say it's $7,000, but it's really $3,500 2 years from now. I'm going to get that back. So it's not really 7,000. It's half price or more, depending on the product. So I think with that in your head, you shop differently.
Yeah. And one of the things that's interesting in our category as well, because we deal with a different customer, meaning a very high net worth customer. And a fewer percentage of our sellers are actually buying. So only 12, 13% of the people who sell to us buy from us. And we're luring, we're giving them free stuff, but they shop from the brands and a sales associate at Chanel and Hermes, and they can get the Birkin when it comes in because they're buying lots of Birkins. And so what's interesting is with the Neiman Marcus partnership, not meaning to, again, spoiler alert, but we found that we get many times more because Neiman Marcus will give you store credit if you sell to us too. So we can pay you $1,000 for your Gucci backpack or $1,100 in Neiman Marcus store credit. And we actually have multiple times more customers opting for store credit when it's Neiman Marcus store credit, because people might want some used items, but they actually are looking for new stuff. In our sellers are looking to, and we don't actually mind because we have the best inventory, largely because we have a very high net worth customer base who's selling to us and they're buying from the primary market. And then we're able to get that item when it's still fresh and really nice. Where a lot of people in resale, they're shopping mostly from wholesale markets, which that exists, where your customer is buying from a wholesaler where it's just, you're buying more used products that already was bought in the resale market. Comes up with a very subpar inventory mix. And that's why Fashionphile is Fashionphile 100%. Anybody else in our model, we do it best on the customer acquisition side, getting product directly from the closets. There's a lot of wholesaling happening in our world where you think, oh, they look a lot like Fashionphile, and you think they're getting it from closets, and you find out that half of what they're getting is from the wholesale market in Asia or other wholesale options where we're getting it from closets and makes it really fresh. And so we kind of encourage that because then we get really great product.
Let's take a quick sponsor break. Looking for a 3PL that's truly next level? Cart.com is a 3PL on steroids with nationwide distribution centers and the most advanced AI-driven software solutions from WMS and OMS to TMS, all designed to streamline your entire delivery process. With Cart.com, you get a fully integrated commerce platform that unifies your operations, data, and customer experience all in one place. Their platform combines physical distribution with cutting-edge AI, empowering retailers to scale faster and more efficiently. Whether you're D2C, B2B, or omnichannel, Cart.com connects your tech stack, simplifies your logistics, and powers your growth. From click to customer, enabling distribution for Janie and Jack, Portland Leather Goods, Tom's, and many more. Cart.com. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Simulate. Search has changed. Today's shoppers don't type keywords, they ask questions, full sentences, 35 words on average. Legacy search engines can't keep up, but Simulate can. Simulate's the first AI-native commerce platform powered by Commerce GPT, built to understand intent, not just match words. That means smarter results, fewer dead ends, and higher conversions automatically. Visit Simulate AI, that's with a C, Simulate with a C, to see how context-aware AI is reshaping commerce in-store and online. And we're back. With so much happening today around technology, and the buzz is all around AI, and AI is helping move companies forward, I can only imagine the technology that's required or that you may need to use for authenticating product that's brought in to Fashionphile. Is it expensive? How much technology do you use? Or is it really an art form that you're able to employ at your locations?
Yeah, and I'll start, and Ben, I'll let you pipe in on this one too. But I will say that there's a lot of like conversation around companies that are using AI for authentication, and they'll say 25%, 50% of our product is now, authenticated by AI. And when I hear that, I just say, well, some of those are not real, because the reality is what every brand now is producing so much new product, and AI and this modeling that you use for authentication is based on data. And so if we get the first Chanel flap in this new textile that just came out, the first one we've ever had, there's no tool that we can use on that. There's only one data point, but there's nothing fueling the model to be able to help us to authenticate that. So I'd be leery of anybody today. At Fashionphile, we use a lot of different tools, but we don't use any tool that is making a call on real fake. It's humans that are making the last call. So HI plus AI, I'd say.
Sure.
Ben?
Yeah. And that's one of the things I think from the beginning, we did really well is we documented everything we knew about what makes a bag authentic, whether it be Chanel or Louis Vuitton, create the guide. So like the stitching has to be like this. And there's like so many points that the reason you can't completely use tools is like, say you have a tool that tells you whether it's real gold, or that these feet are supposed to be brass. It's brass. You can use a tool for that. Or you can look at an x-ray or something and find out what's inside. Because a counterfeiter may have used real materials because they know they're supposed to. They may have even used the actual same materials that were sourced by that company because that company didn't make the brass puts, some other company did, and they used the same one. So you might get the components right, but they might have got the stitching pattern wrong from the sewing machine. And that's like another counter. They may have gotten that right, but they used a different kind of a glue. Like the counterfeiter can do a lot of things right, but they have to get 100% right. And if they get 100% right every time, the cost goes up for the counterfeiter to a point where you can hardly sell it for a counterfeit price. And it doesn't really make sense. They're always going to look for a corner to cut. And so that's what our people are doing. They're like, what corner did they cut? They may have gotten half the components right or 90%, but they'll cut a corner and we'll find it. And the AI we can't, there's no such thing as a 360-degree box that looks at all of those components and smells it and feels it, the right texture. That hasn't come out yet. And who knows? I'd say it'll never happen, but so far we don't trust it enough to.
Well, just to summarize this, where with retail today, return fraud has been a huge issue, and it's growing and growing. Just as shrink has been a huge issue in store, are you experiencing more and more customers trying to come in and sell you fakes?
We've had that from the get-go. We've been very conscientious of that from the eBay days. They call it bait and switch. We've called it back in the eBay days. That was an easy early fraud, is you send somebody a bag and they return a fake bag. And the truth is we've done a lot to, Neiman Marcus has been actually really good in helping us make connections with some of the brands to say, let us help you with your returns, because we get far too many of this scary scenario where person buys an authentic bag or, from a brand, authentic. But what had happened is actually a fraudster had bought the real bag, returned the fake bag to the brand. And then an innocent person bought from the brand the counterfeit bag. They carry it for a year and a half, and then they bring it to Fashionphile to sell. And we say, I'm sorry, it's counterfeit. And they're like, I bought this from the brand. And we're like, sorry. And it's a known thing that has happened in the, just regularly. And so we've been able to communicate with lots of brands and say, you know what, we don't want to be off price. If Gucci can't sell it in all of their outlet stores and all their discounting, we don't want it. But if Gucci is a hot item that was returned because it was too small or too big, we do buy used things that were in someone's closet, and that could be something we could help with, and have these conversations around, can we help you to authenticate your returns? Because it's a huge issue. Brands now are doing things like RFID and tagging systems that make it a lot easier, but that doesn't help with the vintage stuff that didn't have that.
You mentioned Neiman Marcus. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but as I said in the bio, Neiman Marcus invested money in Fashionphile, I guess, back in 2019. Now that Neiman Marcus has been bought out by Saks Global, Where are you today with Neiman Marcus? What's the affiliation? What's the future?
We still, they're still a partner of ours. We, we now have a board member from Saks Global on our board. We always have a board member from Neiman team. And there's, quite frankly, a lot of synergies. Neiman Marcus and Saks are working out a lot of, the blending there and a lot of issues that they're kind of, optimizing on that side. And so there's been some really cool things that Fashionphile has been able to do, like having Neiman Marcus sales associates are able to help come, clean out your closet. They might help you to buy things from Neiman, but they could also say, hey, listen, you never use that Louis Vuitton briefcase. Let's sell it to Fashionphile, and then you can get store credit and so we're able to do there's a lot of very cool synergies. Neiman Marcus or Saks, they don't love that you buy your Chanel bag from Fashionphile, but they sure hope you're going to sell it to Fashionphile. And then how cool do you get paid in store credit?
The whole partnership from the beginning still exists as now it's Saks, in addition to the Neiman Marcus stores. But it just really shows how re-commerce, and it's not really a fulfillment of a seed of a dream so long ago, that traditional luxury can actually coexist with resale, which is like such a symbolic sea change from where we started with that, like the stories of the eBay, like Wild Wild West, and then saying, let's get off that, establish our own brand, and then being actually, have an investor and having partnerships with luxury first line, stores was a huge account. I think it was a big thing for the industry too, to just say re-commerce is legitimate. It's not, what you might have thought. So I think and that's still, it goes on today through Saks, and we hope to just expand our relationship with them in the future.
Just to add to that, when Ben and I were doing this for 20 years, like for a very long time, we were growing every year, profitable every year. And honestly, in a vacuum, we would have just kept going. It was fine. Like, met with investors several times over the years, and we were like, what would we do with the money? We would blow it on advertising. Like, you can only grow so quickly in our world before it's damaging to the customer, because we can't really scale authentication. If all of a sudden we had 5 times the amount of quote requests come in today, we'd give a really bad experience to people, to be honest, because it's not something you can really do with AI right now. And so, or with technology, use technology as tools, and humans are heavily involved for everybody in our category. And so when we looked at, back in 2018 or whatever, we just said, we could do this forever. I love my job, Ben. We were we're making good money, profitable. But at the end of the day, we said, you know what? We've got competitors now. We had no competitors for 15 years. Nobody was in our space. I actually listened to a podcast or a thing that Jeff Bezos gave, and he was talking about some of the growth of the company, and he's talking about building AWS. And he said, the thing that he realized, and he looked back at it, he's like, for 7 years, we're working on AWS and we had not a single competitor. And he talked about how that felt. And I was like, we can relate. We didn't have that. And it really allowed us to grow, to learn and understand the customer, and have a really great foundation that we could then get some fuel, some money, and really add it to the fire and get this roaring fire. And so, we went out looking for normal private equity, because just traditional, because we said, we're going to play this game. Now we've got competitors, and they're all playing a different game than we are. And at the end of the day, they're getting so much awareness. And we're kind of like, in 2010, Entrepreneur Magazine called Fashionphile one of the smartest, most innovative, hands down brilliant companies on their radar. And then we went under the radar with all of the awareness from all of these companies that raised money. And so we said, we're going to play the game. We need to develop some technology that's expensive. Ben and I didn't have any leadership on our team that had experience that we could really partner with, sit around the table, and we didn't have that. And we just weren't doing any marketing. Like, we didn't have a marketing team, and, weren't trying to get awareness in that way. And so we really made that decision. And at the end of the day, we had term sheets from some great private equity groups, and even Marcus, honestly, like a white horse, was unexpected, came in. It was such a Cinderella story. Strategic partner has been, and honestly, we've learned so much, and it's so perfect, because what Ben said from the beginning about Beverly Hills and all that, one thing that I think differentiates Fashionphile from the very get-go is that we are not trying to build the best thrift brand. We're trying to build a luxury brand that sells these beautiful things. That's like for these luxury brands, a luxury brand like the other brands. And so when we met Jeff Waugh from the Neiman Marcus team and he came to our headquarters, he walked in and he's like, I can feel that here. Like, you treat the product with such respect. It's like, and so it was just the right partner for someone who's trying to build a company with our viewpoint. And we've learned a ton from them. And I'm so grateful that it worked out that way, because strategically it's been great and we've learned a lot. And I think it's helped our progress since then.
It'd be interesting. I invested a while back in a company that's not around now. I have a few of those I've invested in, but it was also in the circular space. But one thing that they were doing, which could be interesting just thinking about this, is imagine if the customer who's at Neiman Marcus buys a new Chanel bag or buys a bag from brand X, Chanel, Gucci, a brand, a coveted brand at the time. Could they give the customer a return price if it's returned within 1 year in good condition?
They totally could. Like, we do that. Honestly, we have a whole program around it. And that's a conversation we've had with the Neiman and Saks team as well, because we do that at Fashionphile. We call it refresh. And depending on when you give it back to us, you get more. The sooner you do it, the more you get.
I mean, I wouldn't tell my wife about that program because she'd be all over it. She'd be like, every 8 months, every 9 months. I see the life cycle of some of this product, and it doesn't go beyond a year.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. It's either sitting in the closet unused. And by the way, the sooner you sell it, the more it's worth most of the time. Some things can sit around, but for the vast majority of you're in your closet, you really should move it. If you're not loving it, you should sell it right away. So yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about opportunities for growth. I mean, where's the business going? It sounds like you've got a great foundation. You have stores, you have salons, you have a big online business. How big is international? Sarah, where do you go from here?
I mean, like, international there's nobody who are doing in many countries and regions around. We have an office in Asia we've had in Tokyo for 8 years now. And there's so much resale in that region, but there's other areas of the world where our model does not exist. And so it's one of those things, it's like, do you want to wait till somebody does build your model to scale and then compete? Or, so you'll see some news on that. And Ben, if you want more to add on that.
I mean, I think when we look where we can go, I mean, the ultimate vision is like a global brand. And so international is certainly part of it. There's, like Sarah's saying, untapped opportunities that I think are ours for the taking. It really just matters for us to be able to get out there. But beyond that, even in the States, the awareness of this has definitely come a long way from when we started. But there's still a lot more shoppers who are shopping, from Hermes and Balenciaga, and they're just not quite onto the benefits of resale. And not about just the discounting. There's a whole other market out there for that. But it's like realizing that you can get unique items or get that one that's sold out. There's a viable option for that. I think the awareness is still very low in the United States, and we could double and triple just here. So that's still not lost on it. We don't have to go overseas because we've tapped out in the United States. A lot of companies do, like, hey, like, I've sold all the IBMs I can sell. I got to go to China to like sell more IBM. This is not the case. We still have a ton to do here. But all the while, we should be getting out across the world and setting up a beachhead in all the key markets, because if we don't, someone else will. But I think there's opportunity domestically, internationally. We don't. A lot of the question is like, do you plan on expanding in your product type? And like, we don't have any plans to expand by taking clothing. I think that changes the operational capacity of the business in a way that doesn't help us maintain profitability. So we actually plan to keep doing handbags, jewelry, fine jewelry, watches, accessories, and keep that business model constant, but just get more awareness and more geographical coverage.
It's interesting because we had an event in which you should come, by the way, Ken, you should bring your wife to our Chelsea headquarters, 60,000 square feet right in Chelsea. I mean, we'll invite you to our next event, but we had an event with the CFDA. And in the very beginning, I welcomed everybody and I asked how many people before this event had heard of Fashionphile. And there was probably 5 hands. It was shocking how few people, and honestly, and I said to them, which is totally true, that only energizes me because if everybody raised their hands, I would say, how do we grow now? You already know about us. And how do we get more sales? But when we're having these events, we're talking to people every day. It's shocking. We're like, how do you not know? We've been doing this, working so hard over so many years. And so, like Ben said, there's a huge opportunity for us still to grow within our own. And that's really our major focus.
And in some, you talked about stores and things like that. That's one of the ideas behind retail stores, is to put ourselves out there in places where shoppers are out already. And they're not, like, I think people who want to search us out online and say, I want to sell my bag, what's the best way to get top dollar for my shelf? They probably know us because we're, they're searching for us. They're going to find us. We're not making it hard to find. But people who aren't even thinking of, oh, my Chanel actually has $4,000 of value in it today, and it could actually be flipped out for a new one. Like, I don't think enough people know that if they haven't thought of it yet. So we need to get out in front of them. And, that's one of the reasons we have the retail stores, is just pure customer awareness.
I also like it, which supports your model, your ability to open up in a secondary location. You don't have to be on street level. You can be upstairs, like in the city, because you're so destination oriented. People are dying to find where you are, to come and bring their bag in, have it bought by you, then potentially pivot it into a new item. But you don't have to pay top dollar for rent.
People always say you have 60,000 square feet in the city. How do you afford it? But we're like 4th floor up in the the thing.
And even that's not cheap, but it is relatively cheap. And so each of our locations, like the flagships, they're not on the retail main at all. It's a destination. You have to know, which is another kind of thing. It doesn't really work for customer awareness side of our strategy, but people really, I think, resonate with it's kind of a private club. And that's why we say you need to come into the Chelsea one, because you go through this lobby, you go up the elevator, you come into the space, you go down this amazing hallway, you see tens of thousands of Birkins lined up. And then you have this like showroom and living room setting and fancy furniture and people offering you like champagne or whatever. It's like, such a unique shopping experience that you have to like experience it, because it's not like any other thing you can learn. And so that's the speakeasy part of it. And a lot of people love, like, I got a place in New York. You got to know, you got to go up this elevator, and then bam, same thing in Carlsbad. You got to know, you come up the street and all of a sudden big Fashionphile sign hits you, but you have to know. So we're kind of like two-faced about it. On the one hand, we like being like the best kept secret in New York or whatever, but doesn't help out
the secret
awareness. So that's why we have the retail stores out there for awareness. But
it's interesting because our flagships, like Ben said, they're so special. And when you think about high net worth people who can buy anything and they're really looking for experiences, they love the shopping experience because it's so different. They're so shocked by it because you come up, you're not in a store. It's so hospitality feel and special. And so they tell their friends. And so we're able to grow. I mean, our flagship in San Diego is in an industrial park in Carlsbad. Carlsbad is no luxury. It's 45 minutes from like Fashion Valley, San Diego, and another like hour and something from Orange County. We have a tiny little shop in there. We do $20 million a year in sales in this little shop in an industrial park because the honey attracts the flies, and people come out. It's amazing. So it's a very special. So anyway, you'll come and see her.
That's why to check it out. My wife, who's in the jewelry business, she's president of Reinstein Ross. She partnered last weekend with Sarah Nicole Vintage, who has all vintage, like luxury vintage wedding pieces, all apparel.
Amazing.
And she's killing it. You got to connect you guys because I think that there's a real synergy there. It's like influencer thing. It's totally happening. It's great. But it's all the circular economy. It's the younger customer today who's out there looking for the experience. It's the hunt, thrill of the hunt. Obviously, guys, you're doing it extremely well. Let's just talk a little bit about leadership and then we'll conclude. In terms of being an entrepreneur, and Ben, you shared with me your entrepreneurial story, which was quite unique. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur today who's thinking about starting a business?
What I always tell people is do something. Just start doing something, because the great ideas are never usually created from full business plan in a room, like thinking about what it's going to be. Is you start doing it and then you realize, oh, there's an opportunity in this direction or that direction. And the way that these, for Sarah, for sure, and me independently, separately selling stuff on eBay is like, if we weren't just selling stuff on eBay, like, before I joined with Sarah, I was selling Hawaiian shirts in Hawaii. And it was like, I'm in Hawaii literally like with no job, and I don't want to have like a tied job and all that. So like, I don't know, what do I do? Like, I know I can sell stuff on eBay. So I go to a thrift store. I don't know. I get 100 things, and a couple of them were Hawaiian shirts, a couple of them were other things. Start selling them, and like, oh, that worked. So I'm not going to do those anymore. I tried a sewing machine once, a vintage sewing machine, $50. I thought I was going to sell it because it looked cool and old, and I was like, that was a total waste. Can't ship it. I didn't only made $10, but the Hawaiian shirts worked. So I'm like, double down on that. Oh, this brand worked. Double down on that. So it's like, if you don't start doing something, if I was just like researching what could I sell online, I might go to a totally different direction and then end up in a very competitive space, or whatever the articles are written about, or whatever someone else did. Try not to copy other people's ideas. Try not to be doing the sexiest new tech trend. Like someone will succeed in that. But most people's great businesses start from them trying something, iterating, and then, tapping into something. So just do something and you'll eventually get there, rather than wait for the brilliant idea and then do it.
Sarah, what leadership lessons have been the most important during Fashionphile's evolution?
The more someone on the team is engaged in the vision and can feel excited as leaders, getting them excited about seeing not just the job we're doing today, but like Ben said, we're trying to build the best brand in the world doing what we're doing. It's and when you get people excited about that, like what can we do to get people to not only buy into it, but to feel as excited as we are about that job? Because then it gets people thinking and gets them, energized. And I feel like they're a lot more engaged in moving the work forward for the right reasons. So, I think as leaders, being able to express the vision in that way and get people excited about it, and to have them believe it, that it's not like, this is possible. And today, when we talk to our team, it's believable, because we're just like, so many exciting things are happening and we're just there. But like, it wasn't as believable 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It was to me. Like, like, we believe it, but like, how do you express that? How do you get people excited about it? Because if so, they will come along for the journey, and they will give in their time, and they'll put their heart and their mind into it, and work alongside you as you're trying to, reach that end.
And for the listeners out there that may be wondering, how can these two be together for 20 years? Where's the connection here? There's a little more than meets the eye.
Well, it wasn't said earlier, but my wife, Emily, is Sarah's sister, that make us in-laws. And so that's kind of how we know each other. And Sarah and I actually, before Fashionphile even, had another little venture you started called Law Swap, and did a little bit of that together, and had a little bit of a history to say, okay, we worked well together, and then kind of went our separate ways. And Sarah's selling all kinds of great things on eBay and narrowing into Louis Vuitton, and I'm doing eBay in Hawaii, like I mentioned. And it was just like, if we're gonna partner up, let's partner up and let's do bags.
Yeah, it was actually interesting, because I was
like the whole time,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because at first he was just dating my sister. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Okay. But I think when we started Law Swap, you weren't even married, were you? I think you were just dating. I was in law school at the time, so we built an online platform, again, circular model, of reselling law books. Because I'm like, I need to get cheap law books. And we went out to the whole East Coast, like stuffing mail boxes in law schools. And the biggest lesson I learned, the whole thing, the price point's too low, the total addressable market too small. But the best lesson I learned was that Ben's strengths are my weaknesses, and I think my weaknesses are his strengths, vice versa, all that. And so we make really good partners. And that was the biggest lesson I learned from Law Swap.
So you guys prove wrong the statement that there's no such thing as a good family business.
and the Marriotts and the Waltons. So good.
They did okay. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, but yeah, there's two big pieces of advice people give when you start a business. Like you say, one is don't go in with your family. And the other one is don't go 50-50. And her and I did both of those things. We went in 50-50 and family. And I always say, like, there are problems with that. Like, people are right. It makes it hard. It makes it a little like awkward sometimes when decisions have to be, when tempers flare. So it is bad. Yeah, sure. But I always say, like, but that's the opportunities that hit you in life. Like, how do you not do 50-50 when you're both coming in and there's no money? There's no, it's like, okay, so we're going to partner up together, but I got to have the upper hand. Then you probably don't even do it. You say, okay, let's just go in 50-50 because it's kind of the only way to do it. And the family, like, well, you have those opportunities because you know them, because you're together thinking about things. And so I think, yeah, it's good advice, but practically, that's often the way it has to be done, or you just don't have a business.
It works well for us too, I think, because my sister is my only sister and she's like my best friend. So she's very enjoyable. And then my husband and Ben get along really well. So it's kind of awkward because we'll go to dinner together, we'll have Thanksgiving or travel together, and we talk about the business like all the time because it's just so natural when we enjoy each other too.
That way you can run up every time we go out.
You're both smiling.
Every time we go out.
It's clearly working out well. Let's conclude with rapid fire. Ben, favorite vacation location?
I'll say Greece. Do you want explanations or just one word?
That's fine. Greece is good. It's good. Sarah, I'll ask you the same question.
Tokyo, Japan.
Sarah, best item you've purchased on Fashionphile?
Oh my gosh. I have how do you say it in French? Just on the nail. Just on clou. Ben speaks fluent French. Just on clou. It's the nail Cartier, but it's the necklace. So it looks like a big gold nail wrapped around your neck. Happy anniversary to me. It's not allowed to shop for me. I take care of myself, and then I say, you're covered. Thank you very much for a generous gift.
Good for you. Ben, who would you most like to meet, dead or alive?
I'm going to say, a little tongue-in-cheek, Floyd Mayweather, because he has an amazing bag collection that I would love to get on our site. Like, you walk around Birkins, and he's like famously well bagged. And so I think we'd love to get him in the Fashionphile network.
Love that. Final question for both of you. Ben, you start. Favorite streamed show?
I just am not that. I'm not up on the latest. I really enjoyed Succession when I watched it.
Great. That's a popular one. Sarah, you?
Yeah.
Dream show. I'm more of a cat memes. I do person.
You should do My Octopus Teacher. It's not a streamed show.
Oh, yeah. I do like that. I don't know.
We always talk about it.
Yeah, My Octopus Teacher I've watched it like 7 times. It's like, people tell me it's like watching paint dry, but I must like watching paint dry because I do love that. But yeah.
And with that, we'll end this flight of the Retail Pilot. Sarah, Ben, great to have you on the flight. Thanks for tuning in to this week's flight of the Retail Pilot. And please give us a review on your favorite podcast platform.